before. Right, welcome. Welcome to the first but not last Studying Abroad for First Generation Students session during Study Abroad Week. My name is Brianne Chang. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the manager for our Global Internships program here at UC Berkeley. And I'll pass it to my colleagues who are co-presenting with me today. So I'll pass it over to Lily.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us today. My name is Lily Rodriguez. My pronouns are she, her, and ella. I am an international program specialist with UCEAP, and that's the UC Education Abroad program. I'll pass it over to Gigi.
Thanks, Lily. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Gigi Estilo. I go by she, her pronouns. I am a study abroad advisor for the UCEAP programs in Asia. And I'm really glad to see everyone today, and I'll pass it over to Michelle.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for making the time to join us. My name is Michelle Ayazi. I use she, her pronouns, and I work in the Berkeley Study Abroad office. I'll be handling the chat today, and I'll pass it on to Brianne.
Thank you so much. We also have 4 amazing student alumni whom we'll hear from later in our student panel. But in the interest of time, we'll go ahead and get started. So first off, just a special thanks to all of our campus collaborators. This session is a UC-wide session, so we welcome students from other UC campuses to join us here today. But before we begin our session, we'd like to start with the land acknowledgement and would like to name and acknowledge that where we're joining you from today at UC Berkeley, it sits on the territory of the Huichin, the ancestral and unceded land of the Chochenyo-speaking Muwekma Ohlone people, and that every member of the Berkeley community has and continues to benefit from the use and occupation of this land since the institution's founding in 1868. As members of the Berkeley community, it is vitally important that we not only recognize the history of this land on which we stand, but also we recognize that the Muwekma Ohlone people are alive and flourishing members of the Berkeley and broader Bay Area communities today. We also know that land acknowledgements are incomplete and are just the first step. So we encourage you all to think about where you join us from today and what commitments you can make to recognizing and supporting land back or other types of actions that can support Indigenous communities. On this slide here, we do have a link to native-land.ca where you can look up the Indigenous communities that are alive and well in wherever you're joining us from today in California. So next, this is our agenda for today. We'll be going over why study abroad, where and how you can study abroad. We'll go over general application information, financial aid and scholarships, and then some first steps and additional resources for you all to consider. But the heart of our presentation is our amazing student alumni panel, which we'll save ample time for at the end of our session. Next, I'll pass it over to Lily.
Great, thank you. So why study abroad? There are many reasons why you may want to study abroad. And in the end, it's a personal choice. You may have a personal interest or connection to a location and its history. Maybe you want to get work experience, explore different careers, or find out where you want to live and work after graduation. And you could also go abroad to fulfill major, minor, or breadth requirements, learn a new language, or even just take classes for fun. So if you're beginning to explore study abroad options, you might be wondering where and how can I study abroad? Well, you can study abroad just about anywhere. There are over 400 program options in over 40 countries. You also have several experience options. You can choose an immersion program where you'll get to be a student in a foreign university. You can choose a language program if your focus is on improving your language skills. You can even do an internship or research, and you can build your resume or CV. You also have the option to choose from several different providers, including UCEAP, campus-based programs. And if you don't find what you're looking for, you can even explore independent programs or other UC campuses program offerings. If you don't know where to start, visit your campus study abroad office for assistance. So for first-gen students, it may seem daunting to be the first in your family to study abroad, especially when your family may have sacrificed and done everything they can to support your education in the US. But we'd like to remind you, though, that you already have what it takes to be successful at studying abroad because you have already successfully navigated your home campus. First-gen students possess the strength of perseverance. This is the ability to navigate large institutions such as the UC. This can be challenging, and so can studying abroad. But your ability to forge this path you're on for yourself and your family is a strength and skill that has undoubtedly prepared you to do the same while you're abroad. You're also so resilient. Your generation has lived through a global pandemic, a recession, climate change, and yet you've all been able to bounce back despite life's setbacks and obstacles. Studying abroad will throw a new challenge your way, but your resiliency will allow you to bend and adapt to cultural differences abroad. You're also so incredibly resourceful and are expert code switchers. These strengths will help you succeed when you're abroad. Lastly, I want to remind you all how brave you are. It's brave to be the first to do anything, especially when your support system may not fully understand or know how to support you. It's also brave to study abroad, and our campus advisors are here to support you. So if you are planning to apply, it is important to know that most programs are not competitive, but some have capacity maximums. So apply early to ensure you're admitted into your first choice program. One thing to consider is that most programs require applications several months ahead of time. So please plan between 6 months to 1 year in advance. And for detailed information, make sure to contact your study abroad office. Most programs, the eligibility is based on your class level, your GPA, but some programs may have language requirements as well. So make sure to stay in touch with your campus study abroad office for more information. So moving on, we understand that students are concerned about the potential cost of studying abroad. The good news is that financially travels with you. So if you participate in a UCEAP or UC campus-based program, you can take your financial aid with you. And just a reminder, make sure to complete your FAFSA or your California Dream Act application so you are eligible. And of course, you also must take a full course load while you are abroad. One important note about the cost of study abroad is that the cost per program is going to depend usually based on the location. So make sure to compare the cost of each of your programs you're interested in. You might find that one location is going to be different from another location. And if you have any questions, of course, meet with your campus financial aid team. They can help guide you and learn more about some of the options available. Lastly, I want to emphasize that there are many scholarships available to students, including the Gilman Scholarship, which is for Pell eligible students, several UCEAP Global Scholarships. There are also academic and departmental scholarships available to you, so make sure to check the scholarship section of your campus website.
All right, so just a reminder, you already have what it takes to be successful in studying abroad because you've already successfully navigated your home campus as a first-gen student. But here are some first steps that you can take to prepare you when looking for the right program for you. So research your program and choose the best fit. Also determine when is the best time for you to go abroad, whether it be summer, fall, spring, or the full academic year. Review your academic progress. We always recommend that students get in touch with their major or college advisors on their campus to get a sense of how studying abroad fits into their academic plan. Also take a look at the courses available for each of the programs you're interested in and determine with your academic advisors whether it fulfills any major, minor, or breadth requirements. And of course, you can come speak to a peer advisor or schedule an appointment with one of us to talk through the process with an advisor and ask your questions. And then once you're ready and you've decided on your first choice program, please go ahead and apply online. Here, I'm just going to quickly go over some of the questions to consider when having this discussion with your loved ones around you and when deciding for yourself when is the best time to study abroad. The first one is personal planning, especially if no one in your family has studied abroad, thinking about who you can go to for insight on your study abroad experience. Academic planning, which I highlighted in the previous slide. Do you want to go abroad to fulfill your major or graduation requirements? Are you more so wanting to take courses for your interests? What requirements would you need to fulfill while abroad? And who can you go to for questions when integrating study abroad into your academic plan? I mentioned this earlier, talking with your family and friends, the value of how close you want to be in proximity to those in your support system, and what are ways to stay connected to them. If your friends or family are not familiar, just thinking about how to explain that to them, what are the best ways to share that knowledge to prepare them as well. And then it was mentioned earlier, things like funding, how to fund your time abroad, how can financial aid help cover these expenses, and what scholarships are available for first-gen students. We also encourage you to get in touch with your financial aid office on your campus to discuss additional support, what your financial aid package might look like, and what out-of-pocket expenses to expect. Next slide, please. Thank you. So I'm just going to briefly highlight this one about talking to your loved ones about studying abroad. I've mentioned this already, but doing your research is really important, especially if you're going to be having these first-time conversations or even challenging conversations with your loved ones, and understanding what the benefits of studying abroad, how this would look for you in the long term, things like that. The best approach as well. Here are some tips just to navigate those conversations and just how to get that started. Listening to understand, approaching things from a place of love is always important, especially when it comes to discussions with family members, things like that. There's a few other considerations. Sometimes compromises will happen. Flexibility is something to expect as well, especially when going through the decision-making process and finding a first choice program. Of course, your safety comes first, also navigating what that would look like for you if you were to travel to someplace for the first time, researching about the country and the program as well, understanding financial responsibility. Budgets are really helpful. Your campus will most definitely have resources, your financial aid office as well, so take advantage of those resources. And then creating a communication plan as well. Who you speak with when is really important in preparation and while you're abroad. Next slide, please. Thank you. And so here are some additional resources which we'll put in the chat. Here's a really great resource from UCSC on talking to loved ones about going abroad, which I've highlighted a little bit briefly. This is from the Berkeley website, the Study Abroad for First Gen Students. And then also on the Study Abroad website for Berkeley is the Supporting Your Student as a Family Member. All of these are, intersectional in the sense that you can use this across campuses. There's some really helpful information there as well.
Wonderful. And all of these links are hyperlinked on our slide deck, and we'll be sending out the slides as well as the recording and a follow-up message. All right, so now we're going to transition to our student alumni panel. All right, so I'd love to invite our panelists to introduce themselves in the order that you all appear on the slide, starting with Elvis.
Hello. Hi, my name is Elvis. I'm majoring in integrated biology and minoring in conservation and resource studies. I did study abroad last semester in Moorea, French Polynesia, the ISP program.
Hi, my name is Tajela Achampone, and I am a political economy major, and I did the Berkeley Summer Abroad program just this past summer, and I went to Ghana.
Hi, my name is Laura. I'm also a BSA peer advisor. I'm majoring in conservation and resource studies and minoring in public policy. I did the Bioma Sea Turtle Field course, which is an independent program in Costa Rica, summer 2021 and 2022. I also did the Island Sustainability Program in Moorea last spring, and I did a global internship in Barcelona this past summer.
I'm a computer/data science major, and I studied abroad with the Global Internships Program in Barcelona this summer.
Wonderful. Thank you all for being here. So my first question for you all, and feel free to answer and jump in for any of these questions. The first question is, how did you make the decision to go abroad? And did being a first generation or EOP student impact your decision-making process?
Yeah, I can go ahead and get started. So for me, I made the decision. I actually didn't really come to college with the intention of studying abroad. I never really entertained the thought. It was just that my friend was in one of her lectures, and the professor gave out study abroad information to Ghana, which she told me about, because I'm Ghanaian. So she figured I'd be interested. And as soon as I heard, I was like, yeah, I want to go back because I've been wanting a chance to go, and what better chance to go, and also get education while I'm there. Being an AOP definitely did impact my decision, and especially the country I was going to go to. As a Black woman, I really just would have taken a lot of consideration to the country I'm going to and how I will be perceived in that country. It's a huge consideration for me, and the fact that it was Ghana, not only just because I'm Ghanaian, but even if I was just African American in general, still I know that I would be, welcomed here with open arms, and I wouldn't be perceived any differently than how I should be. So that was a big consideration, and if I was to consider studying abroad again, which I'm still on the fence about. Again, I would really consider the location I'm going to and what I can hope to get out of it.
I can go next. Being an EOP student, I think my main reason for studying abroad was that I come from a low income background. Um, I've always wanted to travel. I've always wanted to see what's out there, but I guess I've just never been able to do so because of financial reasons. But I got enough scholarships to cover my full ride at Cal, so I just figured that I could use because they would only let me use that money for school related expenses, and a study abroad was one of those. And so that was kind of like a win-win for me. So I was able to study abroad because of those scholarships. And yeah, that's why I decided to study abroad.
I can go next. So for similar reasons, I also come from a low income background. And I am a first generation student as well as EOP. So my family members don't really get to travel much or at all. So I hadn't really been outside of the country before the first time I studied abroad. And so I took advantage of the fact that I had an outside scholarship that covered the field courses. And then eventually when I started working here at Study Abroad, I learned about all of these cool programs that were covered by financial aid. And so I just fully took advantage of that. And I hope that in the future I am able to travel, but just in case, because I'm not always going to have financial aid, I thought that I would try to maximize my study abroad opportunities while in undergrad.
Yeah, I think I relate to all the other panelists. Definitely. I'm also from a low income background, and I figured if financial aid is gonna help me out a little to study abroad, I might as well take advantage of that. I also did not come into college like set on studying abroad. I've just heard about it, and people have said if you get the opportunity, you should. Yeah, and being EOP, I think definitely it helped me make my decision because we have our like EOP advisors, and also I had a peer advising meeting with Laura and asking her about like her experience studying abroad, and that really helped, like being able to talk, having advisors at our disposal.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much for sharing. It sounds like cost was a factor to consider, your identity, how you might be perceived abroad, and then also relying on the really strong networks of peer advisors and advisors on your home campus was really helpful for you all. My next question is, what was your day-to-day like abroad? What classes did you take, and how did you get them to fit into your academic plans?
I can go ahead and get started. Yeah, so for what classes, I think Berkeley Summer Abroad is a little different from the UCEAP, so like your courses, sort of like somewhat predetermined in a specific course area. So my course was on the history of Pan-Africanism. And we had 2 Berkeley faculty with us, so we got simultaneous lectures from them while also getting a few lectures from University of Ghana professors. And that was kind of in all fields. Like we had the economics professors come, the poli-sci ones, the history ones, the philosophy ones. So it was a great broad range of professors and subjects that we were learning. And for the day-to-day, we didn't have class every day. I think our trip was a lot more immersive, especially just because Ghana has a whole bunch of different regions that are really ethnically diverse. So each region you go to is completely different to the next. And it even varies so much where, the people in some region don't even know about the other specific another region. So we spent a lot of time traveling throughout the whole country. We did like, a 9-hour drive over to like the border, then a few more hour drives like to other regions. So that's mostly what our day-to-day consisted of. And if it were times that we were at the university for a few days, again, we were going to markets, talking to people because the locals just love to talk to people. So it was just a lot of immersion. I don't think there was really a time where we were sitting down too much. If we were, it was because we were just tired and wanted to chill. But if not, everybody was always just willing to go out and just see more and learn more stuff. So our day-to-day was always just outside in the city or in some of the other villages in Ghana.
I can go ahead and talk about the ISP program. The ISP program is a 10-week program over the spring. The classes were predetermined because it is a shorter program.
Elvis, I don't think we can hear you.
Oh. Can you guys hear me now? All right. Yeah, so the ISP program is a 10-week program. It's short and the classes are predetermined, but it was kind of intensive, but I would say I had a lot of fun. I didn't really get any credits from any of those 5 classes I took, but I guess one of them might count for my minor. But from day to day, like I think we had okay, it was weird. The first 2 weeks were at this like remote island that pretty much no one can get to. And then we slept in shipping containers like during that time. And then the activities was just mostly like wake up, go into the ocean, just like see what's out there and learn about island ecosystems. And then after that, it was like just classes. Like we'd have class 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. every single day. Some Saturdays we had activities planned, but it was just mostly only Sundays that we had off. But I think overall, I really enjoyed it because it was just a really new environment. And yeah, you just got to see a lot of cool stuff. You can see me in the picture right there, like in the ocean. Most of our classes were just about being in the ocean. So yeah.
Can go next. Um, my day-to-day, mine was with an internship. So the internship was from Monday to Thursday, and then we had a class on Friday. And I didn't really know what to expect. I kind of chose the Barcelona location because the classes fulfilled my breath requirements compared to like the other locations, and I didn't really know what to expect. But for our history class that we had in person, we would take like little field trips into Barcelona and just like learn the history of Barcelona, like kind of like in real time, like we were physically in those locations, and I think that was really cool.
I can go next. So I had the same experience as Elvis because I did the ISP program with him, and I also did the internship with Myra. So I second all of those. But on the sea turtle field courses that I did, it was mostly field work based. So we would have a little bit of discussion based on some papers on sea turtle biology and ecology. But aside from that, we mostly did beach patrols literally from 11 p.m. to 3 a.m., where we just collected data on nesting, and that was really, really fun. It was different every day. We also got to plant some native trees, and we also did some beach cleanup. So it was a lot of time outdoors, and I really enjoyed it.
Thank you all so much. So it sounds like your day-to-day really does depend on the type of program that you choose, whether it's a field course, an internship program, or a faculty-led program. My next question is, what challenges did you all face abroad and how did you all overcome them?
I can start with this one. I think Larry can attest to this, but my biggest challenge was actually the mosquitoes. Um, just being in that island was it was lovely, but the mosquitoes really get to you. Like there was no escape from them. I think just understanding that like you're gonna be able to you're gonna have to overcome like situations like that is something you should keep in mind if you decide to go to a place like that. But also communication barriers was a big one for me. I would have loved to talk to a lot more people, but just because I couldn't speak Tahitian or French, it was really hard to communicate. And then also food options could be an issue for some people. I enjoyed the food there, but I know a lot of people didn't. And I know there weren't a lot of like vegetarian and vegan options. I know like Lara struggled with that a little bit, but yeah, just keep that in mind if you're planning to study abroad. Like do your research and know like what type of place you're going to.
I can go next. For me, I think I've gotten used to this as I've gone abroad more, but definitely the first couple times that I did go abroad, um, I did have a lot of imposter syndrome and I did feel a little bit out of place just because the most common demographic of people who go abroad is often like white people who come from a comfortable background, like economic background. And so a lot of the conversation surrounded around like family members coming to visit them at some point during the trip, or just like a lot of things that I couldn't relate to because of my background. And so it was just difficult to feel included sometimes. But I think I've just gotten used to it and just gotten more grateful for what I am able to do. And I know that my family is proud that I'm even like able to go abroad even though they can't. And so that's what's made me feel better throughout the years, and it has gotten easier over time, but definitely fitting in and that all of that stuff. But yeah, it's great now. Yeah, next person.
I can go next. I feel like for me, my biggest thing was definitely the heat. It was blistering that first 2 weeks, but I feel like everybody in the trip said they got acquainted after like the third week. So that was one thing. So I feel like stuff like weather. I was pretty acquainted with the food, so that wasn't too big of a thing for me. But like Elvis said, I know some people in my group did have that. Especially like the vegetarians, almost like 90% of Ghana's meals have meat in it. So that was a little bit of a challenge for those who are vegetarian on the trip. So I think food would be another consideration. But the weather is also something I would definitely look at when you're gonna go abroad, because you're gonna be there for however long time, but at minimum like 6 weeks. So I think just to know how you're gonna deal with that weather and how you're gonna be able to navigate stuff like that. But aside from that, I think another small thing would also just be remembering the cultural norms sometimes, just to keep in mind, because like for example, like in Ghana, like you can't use your left hand for things. So just remembering like, oh, if I'm gonna wave, like put this hand down, don't do that. So just remembering stuff like that and just being aware, but also just get me to appreciate different ways of living that people have and just learning more stuff as I went on.
Yeah, I think adjusting to a whole different lifestyle. It wasn't exactly a challenge, it was kind of just really interesting. But in Barcelona, they're just so chill and relaxed and they respect like their downtime. So on the weekends, I believe on Sundays, most things are closed. Like supermarkets are closed. Like the old school supermarkets are closed. A lot every other market is closed, like yeah, so that was a whole different thing to kind of get used to. And also the food, obviously it's Barcelona is a pretty touristy place, so there were some like American things like McDonald's, of course, but I just couldn't. I have like my comfort foods and I couldn't really find those in the grocery markets either. So yeah, we had to like cook for ourselves. Yeah. No seasoning in Spain. Yeah.
That's definitely one I relate to as well. I carry hot sauce with me when I travel. But you all mentioned a bunch of challenges that came up. for you throughout your programs. Who made up your support system before, during, and after your study abroad experience?
I can go for this one first. Definitely other students with like similar background to me, because then I felt like even though the majority of students like weren't, I was able to relate to some people and then talk to them about the way I was feeling, and it just made me feel good that I wasn't alone. And also I was able to call my mom every so often, so that was always grounding, and friends from home. I would also say I didn't know how to swim going into the island sustainability program, and it's literally like a swim intensive program. So a lot of the people on the program actually helped me learn, and so that made me feel really comfortable and really supported. So I'm always going to be grateful for that.
I can go next. Like Lara shared, I think the friends I made before and during the program were really key to me, like just fitting in and just being comfortable. I relate to what Lara said, with it being hard to relate with a lot of the people that were in the program. But just having other people with similar backgrounds to mine made it a lot easier, because then you could just like step out and talk to them about like real things you're going through, or because you know that they could like understand more easily. And I also, like, one big part of my support system while I was doing the program was the local connections I made. So we had like two, I want to say, like local people like working with us through the entire program. And I think just and they spoke like good English, and so that was kind of helpful. So like if you had questions about the islands, or like if you needed help with anything, they would just check up on you. They were always like checking up on us, asking us like where we're going, like trying to keep us safe, because it was a very new environment. And I think just having those people like be with us made the transition a lot easier too as well.
Yeah, I feel like for me, similar to like what Lau and Elvis said, just having people who have similar experiences to me. For my cohort, I would say almost like I think 80% of us were Black. So it was also just a different experience to, finally be in a whole group of people who look like me. I don't really get that much at Berkeley, and then at home I'm from San Diego, so same thing there. So that was just really important to me. And then also I'm in a country again where everybody looks like me. I think that was just like an experience I can't really explain. It's just really different. And just to know that I'm being viewed, not in a way that's like, contingent on my outside appearance. Like it was just a different experience for me. Just to be in a place where everybody looks like me. I can relate to them. I share same sentiments as them. Not only in the country, but also within my group too. Also, the two professors who came with us on the trip were also Black too. So we had a lot of connection there in that sense. And there was also a lot of already like pre-understanding and stuff that we were going to be doing the trip that they addressed prior to even going on some of the excursions that they addressed for us as Black people too. So that was just super, super, super helpful. I can't even explain how great that was to just have people around me who looked like me. So shared the same thing as Lau and Elvis.
Unexpectedly like found comfort in the some of the people around me, like with Laura, and we had our own little group of like people who were from our similar background, and that was really nice. And I think I got really lucky with my housing too. Most of us were from a similar background, and um I just became really close with them, and we would have like sometimes we would just watch movies together and just like be in like the comfort of each other's presence. Yeah. And I definitely called my parents a lot. I was kind of surprised that I didn't get that homesick. But I think because mine was over the summer, so it was only 2 months. I think 2 months was enough time for me. Like towards the end of the program, I was ready to go home. I got a little homesick towards the end. So I think 2 months was like a perfect time for me. compared to like I believe 5 or 6 months, which is like a whole semester. Yeah.
It sounds like you all had really great support systems within your cohort, some of the faculty. One other thing I'll add is that sometimes your support system can be at home. Myra, you mentioned your mom and your family. It's a good kind of best practice as well to have that one friend that really knows you well, that you can call up and be like, hey, this happened to me. Like, I kind of want to run this by you. It feels weird to me that this happened, right? So having someone that you can rely on at home is also a really great approach so that you have that support throughout your program abroad as well. All right. A question came up in the Q&A asking if any of you participated in paid work abroad. And in addition to that, I'm wondering if you all could speak a little bit more to how you funded your study abroad program and some of the scholarships that you all mentioned.
Yeah, I can go first. So I haven't participated in paid work abroad. The global internships are not paid. You're doing 6 units of coursework while you are doing the internship. So it counts more as kind of like I I don't really, not work study, but it's more like your internship is basically like your learning experience. And so I didn't get paid, but I was able to finance most of my study abroad during the semester was just financial aid that I get during the school year because I do have a full ride. But during the summer, I got some financial aid for tuition, and then I also have an outside scholarship through a scholarship program that I'm in for STEM students that gives you funding during the summer as long as you're keeping yourself busy, whether that be research, an internship, classes. So I definitely was really lucky with that. And then I also funded some of my like travel experiences while I was abroad, like outside of my studies and my work by working during the semester. So I've worked my whole life, and so just like saving up for that. But yeah, a lot of it has been financial aid, which I am really grateful for.
Yeah, I can share a bit next too. Yeah, I haven't heard of a paid opportunity abroad, but I do know that a lot of study abroad or a lot of countries where you plan to study abroad won't let you work there. Like there's a whole process to getting a job, which is just not possible for a lot of people. But I think what helped me study abroad financially was the scholarship I got. Again, like Laura, I'm on full ride. When the refund check hits, like like you're gonna be set for the entire study abroad duration. Um, I was also gonna say something, but I forgot. Oh yeah, a lot of programs could be cheaper than a semester at Berkeley, so it's important to think about that as well. So like if you're on scholarship, they could give you more refund than you need, and then like you just have that extra money to like do something in the summer as well. So it's important to think about that as well.
Yeah, similar to what Lau talked about. I luckily like I knew I was gonna go summer, and I had worked fall semester. I went after my freshman year, so I had worked fall semester and then spring semester. By spring semester, I knew I was gonna go to Ghana. So by then I had started like budgeting, planning with the income I was getting to know that I was gonna use that for the trip abroad. So that was a factor. And then the Black Student Union at Berkeley also gives scholarships to Black students studying abroad. So if there's any Black students in here, it's another great resource to get some finances alleviated. So I received those scholarships as well too. And another big factor, I think what Elvis just said too, is that the cost of living where you're going, Ghana has a very low cost of living relative to America. So I really didn't need to spend that much because a lot of things were just relatively cheap compared to here. So that was also another factor. So luckily I didn't have to have too much put aside or be too strenuous in my work to get a lot of money saved up. So that's another thing. And then I think also I did have a privilege in the fact that my uncle lives in Ghana. So also if I ever needed anything, any other assistance, he was there to help me. So that's another privilege I had. I know that's not probably particular to a lot of people's circumstances, but in my case, that was also another assistance that I had.
Yeah, so it was mentioned that like it's your at least for the global internships program, you're accepted like 6 months before. So I had like 6 months of planning to do. Worked some babysitting jobs to like pick up some more money. And I have a work study job at UC Berkeley. And I made sure that like it would be okay to still have a work study job while working or while doing an internship abroad, because my internship was unpaid, and it was an I have a job, so I basically worked jobs over summer. So like one the works so yeah, I had a work study job on campus that's like remote. So that's kind of where some of my money came from.
Thank you all so much for sharing that. The last formal question that I have for you all, I have one more question for you all, and then we'll transition to open it up for questions from the folks that are attending the session. But the last question is there anything else you would like to share about your experience as a first gen or EOP student abroad? Any advice or nuggets of wisdom?
I can go. Yeah, so I didn't come into college thinking about study abroad at all. I didn't even know it was a thing until I started working here. And so, I mean, I encourage everybody to do it if they have the means and if they have space in their academic plan. I mean, other than getting to see all of these like beautiful places in the world, and getting to interact with people who like think differently or have different experiences than you is just awesome, because then I think that a lot of the disconnect that we have with people has to do with the fact that we don't know what their experience is. And so being able to experience different places and different cultures just made me a lot more open-minded and understanding of, you know, backgrounds that aren't my own. And then just for personal growth, I've become a lot more confident since studying abroad. I travel by myself to many different states and countries now, and I'm really comfortable in unfamiliar situations because of it. And so I would just say, you know, it's scary, especially if you've never even gone out of the country. But I think it pays off, and there's just so much that comes, like, there's so many benefits that come from it that, you know, keep on giving even after your program ends.
Yeah, I would really piggyback off that. I really suggest just, you know, breaking down any barriers that you have going before you go abroad, and by that I just mean like open mind. One thing I really love about everybody in my group is that everybody had such a big open mind. They understood that they're going to a completely different place in terms of like culture, location, just so many things. So they were really able to just soak in everything, take little opportunities they had to learn, even if it was just talking to a local. So just, you know, take down any like sort of like preconceived notions you have, anything that's like blocking your mind before you go, and just go with an open mind. You get the most out of it. And like I said in the beginning, I just always reiterate this to people. Again, just like really research the place you're going to and your identity to that. I feel like that's just so crucial, because it just makes such an impact to your trip. You just want to make sure you can get exactly what you put into it. And I think that's like the first step to receiving that. So those would be the main two things that I suggest.
A lot of other panelists share this, but I think it would help to just try to find people who are in the same study abroad program who have similar experiences to you, because like if you need someone to talk to, they would probably be the one you would feel more comfortable talking to. But also, I think this is important. Have no expectations before you like go and study abroad, because like you don't want to have like the highest of expectations and then just be like really let down and like get extremely homesick, like even before the program has even like just gone past the month. So just try not to have expectations. It will be hard not having expectations, but it'll help you a lot enjoy the program more.
Any other closing advice or thoughts from the panelists? All right, there is a question that came up in the chat for you, Myra, asking if you could share more about your data science internship and what you did for your internship.
Yeah. So with global internships program, you kind of give them your top 3 areas of interest, and they kind of just do their best to match you up with an internship. And I went in with like a computer science interest, but I ended up doing more web development stuff. Oh, can you guys still hear me?
I can hear
Okay. Okay, cool. I ended up doing like more web development stuff, but one of my coworkers, he got like the data science project or like the data project. He just worked on a project that the CEO gave him. So I was working at a kind of a food delivery service, like a meal prepped food delivery service. Um, and the CEO wanted to expand into Chile. Um, so the project was just kind of researching what's being done in Chile, like is similarly to what we were doing, and kind of like pricing, what is like kind of the demographic, like what are their needs and stuff like that. So he just collected data based on his research and just reported back to like the CEO or something. Yeah, so mine was more like web development, and I definitely had the opportunity to also, you can also just talk to your boss and be like, what are these other projects that I can also do? Like, I'm also interested in this. Can I be more involved in this team? Yeah, so it just depends on like where you kind of end up too.
Thank you so much for sharing. So I'm not seeing any other questions in the chat, but we do have a few minutes left if folks want to ask any of our panelists a question or a general question for the panel.
I saw one in the Q&A about housing, and I see Michelle answered. It does depend on the program. But for mine specifically, so for the independent programs, it was already like in the description that we would stay for the first one at a homestay, and then for the second one at a research station. And then the Maria one was also at a research station for the 2/3 of the program. And then for the internship in Barcelona specifically, we got apartment style accommodations, unless you wanted to do a homestay. But I believe different programs have different options. So for some of them, there's not an option for a homestay. So it varies by the program.
Another question that came up was when you all started thinking about studying abroad versus when you actually went.
I can go first. So I for the first program I ever did, I wasn't even thinking about studying abroad, but my environmental science professor posted an announcement about this field course. This was in the fall, and I ended up going in the summer, so there was about 6 months of planning ahead. And then the next one also about 6 months because I had already known about the program. For Maria, I had heard about it ever since I started working here. But the application cycle for Maria program specifically starts a little later than typical like semester long programs. So I applied in August and ended up going abroad in January. But I was thinking about that. That was my junior year, but I was thinking about it since my sophomore year. And with global internships, I applied in around December, I think, and obviously went abroad in June. But I had been thinking about it for at least a year in advance, because as soon as I started working here, I was like, there's so many options to do, and let me plan out my academic plan with the intention of studying abroad as many times as possible. So yeah, I'm also going abroad my last semester next spring, and I applied to the program while I was abroad in Maria a couple months ago. So I would say at least like a year ahead of planning for longer term programs, and then for summer programs I've thought about it maybe like 6 to 8 months in advance.
Yeah, for me, I think my process was a little bit fast. But my friend told me about that program in January, and the application opened February, so I just applied as soon as it opened. And then I went in May. So it was kind of just like a little bit of a fast process, but I was pretty confident and sure that this was the program I wanted to do. And within a month, I had enough time to like do research and know the ins and outs of the program, what I was going to be getting out. And I think also the fact that I was a freshman played a big part in it, because I wasn't really going to mess up my 4-year plan that I wanted to make sure I was going to be able to keep. I hadn't taken many classes. It wasn't going to mess up with like my upper divisions or anything. And my breaths were pretty set at the time. So that wasn't really a big factor. So I think the fact that it was pretty early on in my college years was just a big factor in me like, okay, I don't want to go.
For me, I actually attended one of these like info sessions for a global internships program. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. A guaranteed internship. Nice. And oh, there's fire trucks. Give me a second. Okay. I just figured, okay, I'll apply, see what happens, like let them decide if I get in or not. And then I got in, and I was like, okay, so we're doing this. Yeah. Um, Once I actually went abroad, I definitely, I feel like I grew as a person, and I wasn't expecting to. Yeah, I didn't really know what to expect, because I I've only ever traveled like for family reasons, not for kind of going out and being independent, being like alone. Yeah, I traveled alone. Um, yeah.
Um, for me, it was kind of well, I guess freshman year, I kind of knew I wanted to do a program in Moria. They have one in the fall and they have one in the spring, but I wasn't sure I was going to be able to do either, because my major at the time was genetics and plant biology, and that major like has you do take so much classes you can't really do anything else. But then I found out about IB, and the classes requirements are a lot smaller, and then I wasn't really sure about the Moria program, but then I met Lara like a couple months before the application closed. And Lara was like, I'm doing this program, you should do it too. I was like, okay, sure. And then so I signed up. I had no expectations. I went in, I loved it. Yeah, I think just having no expectations helped me like just love it a lot more. But like Lara, I'm also going abroad next semester. I had to apply a year earlier. Yeah, and I have a lot of expectations for this one, but I'm hoping to just like get some of that out and just like go with the flow and experience something new. But yeah, I'm going to Madrid next semester.
How exciting. We're so excited for you, Elvis. So we have about 5 minutes left. We probably have time for one more question. So I want to do a call out to folks in the audience. If you have questions, feel free to unmute yourself and ask any of our panelists a question, or if you prefer, you can also put it in the chat. If there are no additional questions, I would love to then open it up to our panelists to share any last words of wisdom with our group before we close out the session for today.
I would just re-emphasize what Lau said previously. If you have the means to do it, if it's something within your time frame, within your plan that you can do, I'd say just go. It's super, super worth it. And I just hope hearing from our experiences gave you guys some more insight.
I agree. I would say just do it if you can. Just go for it. Don't even like second guess it. Just do it. And also, I mean, the Bay is pretty cool, but it is a bubble, and you know, it's kind of cool to get out and know what life is like in all of these tiny little other. I consider them like alternate realities because right now it's like nighttime somewhere else. Like you wanna experience that, like know what it's like to be in a different place in a whole different time zone. And I don't know, it's just cool. I think that you should just take a leap of faith if you can.
I'm just gonna say this one last time, have no expectations.
I agree with everybody else's advice. Yeah, I think my biggest thing is just do it. Like you should experience everything at least once. Yeah. But also do your research on like your location that you're going to, because there may be like some traditions, and also research like food. Yeah.
Yeah, but I will say that like part of the travel and like going abroad process is running into like unexpected problems that no matter how much research you do, like they're just gonna happen. But then in retrospect, like you're always gonna think back at that and think, oh, like that was funny, or I got through that, or you know, it you kind of learn to enjoy it. So just enjoy the process. It's really beautiful and really fun.
Thank you all so much for sharing your insight, your experiences, your advice with us all today. We'll close out today's session with just a link. I'll put it in the chat now for future events. This is a part of a larger series called Exploring Your Identity Abroad. So we do have quite a few events coming up throughout this month and next semester. So feel free to register for additional events if you are interested. But thank you so much to all of our wonderful panelists. We so appreciate you all. Take care, everyone. Have a great rest of your afternoon and evening.